Remember walking around with the broskies and making fun of each other's mom? You were especially cooked if your mom was fat, like the yo mama jokes would just absolutely slap you in the face. I know cyberbullying is like all the rage nowadays, but that's a cakewalk to getting your mom insulted on a daily basis. But those were the good times. I mean, I will say growing up in like the early 2000s was pretty intense, but I'll never trade those days. I mean, making fun of each other's mom was like a rite of passage, if anything. Unless you didn't have a mom, then it was pretty dark. Anyways, this got dark really quickly. Let's get straight into today's video. I don't actually know exactly how to start off today's video because we're about to get pretty intense. Please put your serious faces on. Is it on yet? Well, let's get straight into it. So all credit where credit is due. I guess the original story or the original interview came from CNN, and then eventually Toy Shiz was the one that brought it to my personal attention. I've always said this: if you guys want like a down-to-earth, humble action figure content creator in the community, definitely check out Toy Shiz. He makes some absolute fire content on a like a semi-daily basis. Great content creator, and he's the one that kind of brought this to my attention. But essentially in the interview, they essentially said that no action figures or no toys in general were being manufactured in China. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with action figures or collectibles in general, but a lot of that stuff is coming from China. So at the moment, all production is being halted. I think a lot of it has to do with the retailers and the manufacturers being really afraid of, the extra costs and whether they're going to be able to offload or actually sell any of this product. I think once they, sign the contract with these factories overseas, I think they're pretty much locked in to have these figures manufactured. And I think that's probably why they're halting production on, all collectibles or all toys coming in from China. Not only that, but I'm going to assume that stuff that's already produced, that's, like ready to be shipped over, a lot of retailers are canceling their orders for those particular toys. We don't have any clarification on what exactly those figures are. Could this be tied into like that whole McFarlane stolen action figure situation? Like maybe they're trying to halt production or trying to halt these figures from actually coming to the States because of the tariffs and the price hikes. I don't know. Like I said, all of that is just pure speculation, but at this particular point, we just don't have clarification. All we know is that there are no figures or no toys being made in China at the moment, and a lot of retailers are canceling their orders. And on a side note, I thought the people commenting in this particular post are complete buffoons. Like I said, political spectrums aside, I could care less what your political views are, but there were a lot of people kind of like not necessarily directly bashing Toy Shiz, but indirectly by saying things like, oh, why are we talking about action figures at this particular moment in history? Like, there are things that are way more important to be talking about, to be breaking down. This is just not at the top of anybody's list. We shouldn't be talking about action figures. We shouldn't be talking about collectibles. Let's focus on what's important. And I thought that was kind of like a comment that was completely out of place here. This is a channel that is dedicated for action figures, for collectibles. That's all Toy Shiz talks about. He's not gonna, start talking about grocery stores. He's not going to start reviewing cars for you guys. He's not going to start doing live action mukbangs for you. He's always going to talk about action figures. That's what the channel is meant for. That's what he's going to continue doing. Why would he switch up anything? It makes absolutely no sense. And I think these people are, just ill-informed individuals. I'm not sure if they don't follow Toy Shiz consistently or if this was just a post that popped up in their news feed out of nowhere and they're not familiar with what exactly it is that Toy Shiz does. But I thought they were just complete buffoons. Okay, regardless of what's happening in in society, in the action figure community, or just like in the market in general, he's going to talk about toys. It's in his name. Okay, Toy Shiz. Anyways, that aside, I kind of did a little bit of digging myself, and I found out that yes, indeed, a lot of these imported figures have spiked in price, and it's not even a joke. And I wanted to give you guys receipts because I know that there are going to be a lot of people out there that are going to claim that imports are not a real thing, that they're not affecting the collector community. But in case you guys are wondering, there are a lot of figures being imported, or a lot of knockoff figures being imported through AliExpress from China. Okay, this is a great opportunity for people that want to customize action figures or that just can't afford the original, or just are not really interested in paying, triple digits for some of these figures. So they decide to just go for the knockoffs. In most cases, they're like unofficial licensed figures. I guess they technically do use everything that Hasbro uses. Some people, speculate that they're like QC rejects. Whatever the case may be, these figures were available for a long span of time. You have, for example, the Legacy Deadpool that you could pick up back in the day for like $9 to $12. You have a lot of the retro carded Marvel Legends action figures. You had like the Symbiote, you had the retro carded Spider-Man, you had the cell shaded Spider-Man. You had a lot of different retro carded Spider-Man action figures that were going from anywhere from like $9 to I think I saw maybe like $12, $13. I think the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Venom retro carded figure was, a little bit of a markup. I think it was closer to like $15, but still everything was within that range. If you go and check AliExpress at the moment, all of these figures are going for about $30. I think some of them range, it could be anywhere from like 27 to about, low 30s. And then you had the Symbiote Spider-Man Carnage VHS 2-pack that was also going for, back in the day, I think I want to say like low 20s to mid 20s, is now going for a grand total of $40. You even want to take a look at CT Toys. I made some videos back in the day about CT Toys. The welcome deals that were being offered at the time were closer to, like high teens to low 20s. Right now, you're looking at about $30. There was a little bit of a price hike for, a good stretch of time. I'm not sure how they were able to work around this. I think they made a statement. They've sent messages and emails to certain people that have bought from them, and essentially they're trying to bring their prices down. I'm not sure if they worked a way around to maybe they're shipping it indirectly into the States, and that's how they're able to get these particular deals. But I think that's probably one of the few manufacturers that is not as affected. I mean, you still are paying about a $10 markup. These knockoff Marvel Legends action figures are an absolute joke. I mean, look, if I was going to invest $10 into a knockoff Marvel Legends action figure, it wasn't going to break the bank. I was paying like, half of the full retail price, in some cases maybe even less, but it was way less than they were selling on the third-party market, right? Like that Hasbro Pulse exclusive Marvel Legends Venom, I think for the longest time was going for like well over 100, like 140 to 180. So I was going on here buying them through AliExpress for about $15. You had some minor little QC issues with the paint, maybe some of the joints were loose, things of that nature, but it was nothing major, especially at that $10 to $12 price point. It wasn't going to drive you crazy. Now you're having to pay over retail prices in some of these cases. Like there's just no way people are going to be interested in buying a knockoff figure for $30 when the full retail price originally was about $22 to $25. And again, I should clarify, I don't really care about politics. As long as they don't affect me directly, I'm never going to tell people what to believe, who to vote for, who to support. Everybody's going to make their own personal choices in life, and I don't want to affect any of that. I also don't like people telling me what to believe in. It is what it is at the end of the day. Everybody's going to make their own personal life choices. However, when they're affecting your wallet, I think it's time to pay attention. And this is absolutely ridiculous. There was a story not too long ago where, according to multiple different sources, and in some cases direct sources, there was something going on where a lot of the different websites, whether it was like Amazon, I think Temu, and then AliExpress, where they actually wanted to separate the import charges from the regular prices. That way people could actually see the difference between, or they could actually do the math in their head and actually see what the import or tariff charges were. And in some cases, some of these websites were able to do it. I think Temu, if it's actually being shipped from China, like if it's not in a warehouse here in the States, like if it's actually being shipped at the moment in China, you would actually have to pay the tariff, and they actually break it down for you. It's not included in the price. I think AliExpress at the moment does include it in the price. They don't break it apart, so you don't actually know what you're paying in terms of tariffs. I think Amazon tried to do this eventually, and I guess politics played a huge role. From what I heard, I guess the White House got involved and Amazon wasn't able to break down the price. I personally think it's a good idea. This way people know what you're paying in tariffs. I know sometimes I don't know exactly what the percentage is at the moment, but I I know sometimes most of us can sit down and do the math ourselves, like 125 or 145, whatever the tariffs are right now, for shipping stuff from China. However, there is a large percentage of Americans that, just don't have the willpower to do the math themselves. And I think this would be a really good idea. Break down the prices. This is what you're paying for the actual product. This is what you're paying for shipping or for fees or for taxes. And then these are the import fees. That way you can actually get, or the tariff, sorry. That way you can get a good idea of how much you're actually paying in tariffs. In case you guys are wondering where that's going, it's going to the government. It's not going to the manufacturer. It's not helping anybody. It's just going directly to the US government. If you're okay with that, perfect. I'm not going to tell you to not believe in it or not support it. All I'm going to say is it's affecting the community at the moment. There's a strong possibility that we're not going to see any new action figures for the foreseeable future unless it's already in transit or unless it's already in the States. But I think anything that is, planned out to be manufactured in China, I think there's going to be a very, very big delay, and this could have a huge effect on the community. I know there are a lot of people out there trying to spin this. Oh, maybe it's a good idea, that kids don't have toys, people are too materialistic and things of that nature. I think that's the wrong idea here. That's the wrong mindset to have. The fact that we're not able to get product that we desperately need in our displays, I think is definitely a big eye opener. And as I said at the beginning of the video, for people that are saying it's time to stop talking about action figures, ladies and gentlemen, that's what these channels are. We talk about action figures, and at the end of the day, we're not going to stop talking about them and start shifting our focus to politics or to groceries or to quote unquote more important things, because that's what we do here. We come to these channels, we talk about action figures to kind of escape the reality a little bit. And so I think people that ask these content creators to talk about something else or to stop focusing in on action figures, I think that's absolute buffoonery. At the end of the day, most of these guys, this is their job, this is their livelihood. You're not going to ask people to stop doing their jobs just because stuff is happening in modern day society. Whatever the case may be, like, people have to continue working. It's also worth mentioning that there is literally no infrastructure at the moment here in the States to accommodate action figure manufacturing or really manufacturing in general. Like, they're not building factories as we speak. They're not trying to move production here. Everything is just at a standstill. Everything is at a halt. There's really nothing going on. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of these big companies are actually just waiting for the people in charge to change their mind. They feel like maybe this is just a bargaining tactic, and then eventually everything will go back to normal. But I just don't see how this is benefiting anybody. It feels like everything is just going to be at a halt for a long period of time. And as I said, there's definitely going to be a very, very big delay on a lot of collectibles, action figures, or toys, or however you want to refer to them. I will say literally the only silver lining to this entire situation, and I have seen a few people already either make content about this or just reference it in some of their comments in multiple different videos, but at least you get an opportunity to catch up. Sometimes there are so many different pre-orders upcoming. There are so many different action figures that are on their way that you don't really get an opportunity to go back and pick up figures that maybe you need to, like, flesh out a display or to complete a team or to complete a little area on your shelf. And now is a great opportunity to do that, because I do feel like maybe within the next few months, action figures are just going to be very, very scarce to come by at full retail. And I think this is a great opportunity. Also, if you have some extra stuff that you probably don't want, some collectibles, I guess you can try selling them through third-party markets. But as a whole, I think the community is going to be hurting for the next few months. And all in all, it's just really sad. I will say the one thing, if there's anything that you take away from this video, aside from the hardcore information about, production being halted and things of that nature, if there's one thing that you should take away from all of this, is to be informed, or be well informed. Know exactly what's going on, know the facts of the entire situation, and then make your own personal choice on what you're going to do for the foreseeable future. I think that's really all you can do here. It's sad, as I said, as an action figure collector, to think that within the next few months we might not see action figures being released at all, or that there are a lot of people that have been waiting for certain characters or certain figures and they may not be able to get it. Not to mention, it's really big, and I don't think that anybody's really touched on it, but let's assume that there is somewhat of a delay or there is a hold on a lot of collectibles. What's going to happen with the DC license. Is McFarlane still going to be able to release all the figures that he had scheduled, or are some of the figures that, were scheduled for the last year or so, are some of these never going to see the light of day? Are they never going to go into production? Are they just going to disappear? Or are we only going to see like concept images or things of that nature? Maybe like some prototypes online at some point, but then never actually receive them in action figure form? I think it's worth talking or speculating about all of that. But anyways, I've wasted enough of your time with my random nonsense rambling. If you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure to stay tuned. We do this pretty consistently. We're doing it on a daily basis. And if there is anything that you disagree with me on, or if you just want to let me know something down below in the comment section that I missed, definitely go ahead and do that. I always welcome criticism, even if it's not very helpful criticism. If you guys have something that I might have missed, or if you want to correct me on anything, you guys can always do that. So stay safe out there. Make sure to enjoy the hobby. I know it's getting really difficult to do that. It seems like every time, we want to make content, we want to get in front of the mic and just ramble on about action figures, it's usually something very negative. It's something heartbreaking happening in the community. So I think it's important to stay positive and to stay strong out there. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.